You are good to start.
It's 5 o'clock, and we'll welcome everyone to the Saugeen Shores Committee of Adjustment for Monday, July the 18th, 2022, and I call this meeting to order. Our second item on the agenda is any acknowledgement of any pecuniary interest. You either raise it now or any time that it arises on the agenda. Our third item is number 3, adoption of minutes of our last meeting, Monday, June the 20th, 2022. I have a motion to adopt the minutes. Moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Myatt, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Any discussion about the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? I declare the motion carried. Item number 4 is any additional business, which I'm unaware of. And so our next on the agenda is our number 5 public hearings. And our first one is number 5.1, which is a minor variance application A-2022-018. This is for various construction on Bricker Street. First, we will receive a report from the planning staff. Then committee members will have an opportunity to ask questions, and I will ask them to reserve their comments on the application until we have heard from the public. Then we will hear from any members of the public. Members of the public are advised that the ability to appeal the decision on this application may be limited if you have not provided comments on the application before the decision is made. After we've heard from the public, the committee will discuss and consider a recommendation on this application. I will now ask the planner, Ms. Mugabe, I believe, to present the application.
Yes, good evening, Chair O'Connor. I believe it's Ms. Smith who's presenting this application.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
Hi, yep. I'm just going to share my screen. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Oops. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm presenting minor variance application A18 submitted by Various Construction and Insulation. The property does not currently have a civic address, but it is legally described as Plan M43, Lot 18, Part Lot 17, located on Bricker Street in Port Elgin. The applicant is seeking 3 variance requests for the residential first density zone, including a reduced lot area of 434 square meters, whereas the regulations require a minimum lot area of 450 square meters. A reduced rear yard depth of 6 meters, whereas the regulations require a medium depth of 7.5 meters, and an increased lot coverage of 50%, whereas the regulations require a maximum lot coverage of 45%. Approval of the variances would facilitate the severance of the vacant property, resulting in 2 identical residential lots, and each lot would receive the same variances outlined above and developed with single detached dwellings. This is the site plan which illustrates the proposal. Each lot would be developed with a single detached dwelling, attached garage, and back deck. The lots and built forms would be identical. In terms of the land use policies for the subject property, the provincial policy statement identifies the property as within a settlement area. The Bruce County official plan designates the property as primary urban communities. Saugeen Shores official plan designates the property as a residential, and the zoning bylaw zones the property as residential first density. The land use policies for the property permit the proposed use of the property for residential use. And I'll just quickly go through some of the images of the property to show the context. So the Planning Act requires minor variance applications to be evaluated against 4 tests. The first test asks, does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the official plan? So the land use policies contained within both the county and local official plans permit a variety of residential uses on the property. The subject lands are designated primary urban communities in the county official plan and residential in the Saugeen Shores official plan. Both designations are intended to provide a variety of housing forms and encourage residential growth. The proposed development will contribute towards the town's goal of increasing housing options and will maintain the low density residential character. The application therefore maintains the intent and purpose of the official plans. The second test asks, does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? The property is zoned residential first density, which permits single detached dwellings. The zoning bylaw regulations for the zone are intended to provide sufficient outdoor amenity space. The proposed severance and development proposal will result in deficiencies to the zoning regulations that will reduce the outdoor amenity space. However, these proposed variances are not considered to be exceptional and will still provide adequate outdoor space. Keeping in mind that the official plan argues for new development to occur in primary urban communities, which encourages more compact development that better utilizes the lands. So with an emphasis on increasing housing supply and land efficiency, some lots may be smaller than past developments. And so with that said, the proposal is compact, but not so much that it loses that outdoor amenity space. And therefore, the variances maintain the overall intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. The third test asks, is the application desirable for the appropriate development of the land, building, or structure? The property is intended for residential use and is located within a low-density residential area. The proposed variance will add 2 new single detached dwellings to the existing residential area, and therefore the function of the lands as low density will be maintained. And so the variance represents an appropriate form of development for the use of the land. The fourth and last test asks, is the application minor in nature? The proposed variance will not have a significant impact on the character of the area or impact the ability for adjacent property owners to use their properties for permitted uses. And so the variances are considered to be minor. So in terms of agency comments, there have been no objections received from Gray Sauble, Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, or the town of Saugeen Shores. However, there was one public comment that was received from a resident in the area who opposes the application. And this comment is included within your agenda package. I won't go over every comment that was included, but generally the opinion is that the 2 homes are not appropriate for the property, that they will not fit in, and there is concern regarding flooding. So generally the proposed development is in keeping with the official plan policies, which encourages residential growth. It's also consistent with the zoning bylaw. And the existing development on the street consists of single detached dwellings ranging in scale and style. And so the character of the area is generally categorized as low density residential. And so the proposed development of the 2 single detached dwellings maintains that existing character. So far, there have been no engineering plans that were submitted to address concerns regarding flooding, but typically this is something that would be addressed through the building permit stage. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions for the planner from members of the committee? Deputy Mayor Matheson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation, Jillian. Quick question. It's pretty much standard that with all new developments, a grading and drainage plan has to be completed and submitted as well, does it not?
It depends. In my experience, that is something that can be addressed at the building permit stage. I do believe that the developer is here who could maybe speak to that if they are intending to prepare those plans.
There's no more questions from the members. We'll now hear from the members of the public. I believe the applicant is here, and on behalf of the applicant is Mr. Doyle. Does Mr. Doyle, do you wish to address the committee?
No, just here to answer any questions. No, to address the prior question, we will prepare a grading and drainage plan prior to applying for a building permit. Yes, we will through a usually GM Blue Plan does those for us.
Okay. Do any committee members have final questions before we close the public meeting and discuss the application? Deputy Mayor Matheson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Stu, quick question for you. Page 3 of the application, it shows the front of the street. There's a driveway for the house behind the property. will that driveway remain or has that been severed off from the parcel?
Oh, I think that was Miss Dunlop's old driveway to Bricker Street, so it would be coming out, yes.
Okay, good. So it fits in well and you're doing a drainage plan. So anybody that's worried about water flowing, you'll have that taken care of. I think it's a great addition to our housing unit. So thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I now declare the public meeting to be closed. Are there any comments from the committee on this application? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve this application? Moved by Deputy Mayor Matheson, seconded by Ms. Kuntz. Any discussion, comments? Ms. Kuntz? No, so moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Ms. Kuntz. Any questions or comments on this application? Seeing none, all in favor? I declare the motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next item is item 5.2. This is a minor variance application A-2022-028 for Mr. and Mrs. Glass of 534 Izzard Road. First, we'll receive a report from the planning staff. Then committee members will have an opportunity to ask questions, and I will ask them to reserve their comments on the application until we have heard from the public. Then we will hear from any members of the public. Members of the public are advised that the ability to appeal the decision on this application may be limited if you have not provided comments on the application before the decision is made. After we have heard from the public, the committee will discuss and consider a recommendation on this application. I'll ask Ms. Mugabe to present the application on file. Ms. Mugabe.
Yes, thank you, Chair O'Connor. Just take a few seconds to load up the presentation. Yes, good evening, committee. This applicant is seeking to construct a replacement dwelling within the environmental protection zone. This zone does not permit new or replacement residential buildings. The existing cottage is a legal non-conforming use. The Planning Act states that the comprehensive zoning bylaw cannot prevent the use of any land, building, or structure for any purpose prohibited by the bylaw if the land, building, or structure was lawfully used for such purposes on the day of passing of the bylaw. The use must have continued uninterrupted into the present. This is an application for alteration or extension of legal non-conforming use. The applicant is David and Susan Glass. The subject land is 534 Izzard Road. It's in Saugeen Township. The site is, there is a right-of-way allowing access via a driveway to properties to the east. This site abuts in an open road allowance to the west, and further west is the lake. To the north and south and east are residential properties. On the site is a detached garage in the front area, and this is the view of the structure from Izzard Road. This is an image of the cottage. And this is the back view of the cottage. In terms of the site context, surrounding land uses, residential uses, there's also an open road allowance, and the lake is further to the west. Servicing is by way of full municipal services, and Izzard Road is a municipal road. The purpose of this application is to extend or alter a legal non-conforming use. Relief is required to reduce the rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to 0.5 meters, and the side yard setback on the south side from 1.5 meters to 0.6 meters. Approval of this application will allow a replacement of the cottage within the environmental protection zone. The environmental protection zone does not permit new residential uses or buildings. The proposed structure will have a smaller footprint and will be a year-round dwelling. We circulated this application to the departments and agencies The town of Saugeen Shores has indicated that the encroachments on the shore road allowance shall be addressed to the town's satisfaction. They have indicated that Izard Road may be encroaching on the applicant's property. The town would like to work with the owner to address this matter. There's no objection from the historic Saugeen Métis. The Conservation Authority has commented that most of this property is within the dynamic beach hazard of the Lake Huron shoreline, and the most western portion is within the wave uprush hazard. The Conservation Authority is satisfied with the coastal assessment report. There's no risk to public, and as there will be no risk to public health and safety. The site also features fish habitat, potentially significant wildlife habitat, and potential habitat of endangered species or threatened species. There may also be significant wildlife habitat located on and or adjacent lands to the property. As there is existing development of similar size and impact, there will be negligible impact on the habitat. An environmental impact study is not recommended. Development permit will be required prior to development because the subject land is within the approximate regulated area of the Conservation Authority. We circulated the application to members of the public. We did not receive any comments. The Planning Act authorizes the Committee of Adjustment to grant enlargements or extensions of legal non-conforming uses. The local official plan outlines the different matters to be considered prior to approval of such applications. And one of those considerations should be the size of the extension or enlargement in relation to the existing operation. In this regard, the replacement structure has a smaller footprint than the existing structure, but the use will be intensified due to the change from seasonal to year-round use. The other consideration is whether the proposed extension or enlargement is compatible with the character of the surrounding use. This area is developed with low residential developments. As such, there is no compatibility concerns. Unlike the existing development, which extends into the adjoining road allowance, the proposed structure will be wholly contained on the property. Therefore, there will be no impact to the shore road allowance. Further, a new structure will be located eastward or landward of the existing cottage, therefore slightly further from the hazard than the current structure. The proposed development will not create new or additional impacts on the shoreline. The third consideration is in regards to the characteristics of the existing use in relation to size, bulk, height, setbacks, noise, vibration, fumes, dust, smoke, odors, lighting, and traffic generation, and the degree to which any of these factors may be increased or decreased by the extension. In this regard, I note that there are no issues in respect to these matters, 7 except with respect to the setbacks. The environmental protection zone does not contemplate residential uses. Therefore, there are no setback provisions for such a use. In consideration of the abutting residential uses and to better reflect the proposed land use, the R1 zone setback provisions could be considered. And in this regard, the proposed development does not meet the minimum rear yard and side yard setback requirements, but will provide slightly larger setbacks than what is currently existing. The last of those considerations is the possibilities of reducing these nuances through buffering, building setbacks, landscaping, site plan control, and other means to improve the existing situation, as well as to minimize the problems from extension. Planning staff is of the opinion that there are no significant nuisances resulting from the proposed development. But I just note that the Ontario Land Tribunal, respecting appeals for applications for alteration and extension of legal non-conforming use, has ruled in such cases that landowners have a right to the normal evolution of non-conforming rights, including the rights to exercise that use more intensively without impairing the legal protection for those rights. As a summary then, to recap, this application is for alteration or extension of a legal non-conforming use. and is seeking to facilitate the replacement of an existing cottage within the environmental protection zone. The cottage will have a smaller footprint and will be used year-round. Environmental protection zone does not permit the construction of a new residential building. Relief is required to reduce the rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to 0.5 meters, and the side yard setback on the south side from 1.5 meters to 0.6 meters. The existing dwelling needs to be replaced. This proposal is supported by a coastal assessment study. It will not result in undue adverse impacts on adjacent properties, and it's desirable for the appropriate development or use of the subject lands. Planning staff are supportive of this application, and we are recommending approval, subject to the conditions on the decision sheet. That concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to take questions if there are any.
Thank you, Ms. Mugabe, for the report. Are there any questions for the planner from the members of the committee? Seeing none, we'll now hear from the members of the public. I believe the applicant, Mr. and Mrs. Glass, are on the call. Would you wish to address the committee, sir?
All right. Yeah.
Good evening.
Yes. Good evening. I'm David Glass. I'm the co-applicant. Our priority has been to be in compliance with all the regulations, and that's what we've done our best to do. I just more or less wanted to answer any questions or clarify anything that I can for members of the committee. This is one of these funny narrow-shaped lots that was on the lakefront that was measured with a piece of string more than 100 years ago, and so this is why the existing structure is put in a place that is not would never meet the regulations that are in existence currently, and what we're trying to do is to make it make something that's year-round, make something that's better, and make something that's in compliance. And we feel that's what we've done with the assistance of the Conservation Authority and the County Planning Department.
Thank you, sir. Do any committee members have final questions before we close the public meeting and discuss the application? Seeing none, I now declare the public meeting closed. Are there any comments from the committee on this application? Vice Deputy Mayor Myatt.
The only question I had, Mr. Chair, maybe I'm a little bit confused by it, but Barbara, there is one encroachment. Am I reading it incorrectly, perhaps? One encroachment to be removed?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. So the current dwelling encroaches into the road allowance,
Right.
But the proposed structure will be contained wholly on the subject land. There'll be no encroachments.
Okay, thank you.
May I have a motion to approve this application subject to the conditions on the decision sheet? Moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Ms. Kuntz. Any discussion? Any questions? Seeing none, I call the vote. All in favor? I declare the motion carried. Thank you. Our next item is item number 5.3. This is a sign variance application for 4845 Bruce Road 3. And Mr. Poley, you're making the presentation this evening?
Yes, thank you, Chair O'Connor.
Thank you.
For members of the committee who have not met me yet, my name is Mark Crowley. I'm the new Director of Development Services for the town, and I'm presenting this sign variance report on behalf of Jay Posner. Good to be with you this evening. The owners of the property located at 4845 Bruce Road in Burgoyne have requested a sign variance to permit the proposed sign to be on land that is not the location of the business. Under general conditions, businesses that are on corner lots are allowed to have ground signs facing both roads, and a sign for this business is already proposed on the Bruce Road 3 frontage. The sign that's the subject of this variance is proposed on the Bruce Road 17 frontage on adjacent property. We agree with the applicant that it is not practical for them to locate a sign on the land that the business is on. The existing building, the parking and drive aisle are impediments to the normal and safe sign placement. And these impediments are special circumstances that we feel would create a hardship for the business if the bylaw were to be strictly applied. And so staff are supportive of the recommendation to approve the variance to the town sign bylaw. That's the extent of my remarks, Chair.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Foley? May I have a motion to approve this application? Moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Myatt, seconded by Deputy Mayor Matheson. Any questions, comments, discussion? Councillor Carr.
Thank you. And I don't know whether or not Mark will be enter. Oh, am I really badly echoing? Is that better now? Get this one. Okay, can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
That better? Okay. I guess just the main question, I seem to remember this one coming back for a variance before when it came to the lighting of the sign that I guess is going to be on Bruce Road 3. Is this going to be a lighted sign, or are we going to see this back again? It just seems to keep on coming back and back. I'm just curious as far as size too, from zooming in on the plans that we had. Oh yeah, I guess from the plans that I can guess, I'm kind of seeing that it's maybe a height of 6'7", maybe somewhere around there with about 9 feet wide, I guess, sorry, not meters, 3 to 2 meters by, I'm not too sure, but do you know the size of the sign and is it lighted? I guess are my two questions on that one.
Yeah, through you, Chair. For the first question, my understanding is that it's not lighted. The previous variance was for the lighting situation for the gas kiosk, as I recall. And the specific dimensions of the sign, I don't have at my fingertips at the moment. Sorry to advise that I don't have those dimensions in front of me.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. I just, sorry, through you again, Mr. Chair. I just curious as to the size, because that is a bad corner coming when 17 meets 3 there. You know, we don't need any more obstructions, you know, kind of thrown up in the way, in my opinion anyways. It'd just be nice to know, you know, the sizing, and it's tough to see in my eyes there from the site plan I'm looking at.
It looks like it's 2 meters on the drawing.
2 meters, so that would be wide and height, like width and height.
The height is, if I can say, is it 6 to?
See, I couldn't make it out clearly either. That's why I had the question on it. Just because once again, we're talking about restriction of visibility coming to a bad corner as it is there. So
Right.
that's the only reason I want to raise the concern on it. That's all I had.
Thank you, Councillor Carr.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
I can advise that the sign, from a safety standpoint and a viewpoint into the intersection, I can appreciate that comment. The sign complies with those aspects of the bylaw, and so it'll be set back sufficiently from the road, and that may be what the 2 meters is referring to. But the sign will be set back sufficiently from the road. And the other related point to that is that the recommendation is that this be subject to approval by county, who have a separate process for approving a sign at that intersection, and certainly safety will be top of mind with that as well.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of this application? I'm sorry, we have a motion. Sorry, we have a motion moved by Ms. Kuntz and seconded by Ms. Barwell. Thank you. Any discussion or questions on the application or the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? I declare the motion carried. Thank you, everybody. Our next meeting date is Monday, August the 2nd, 2022, to be confirmed. May I have a motion to adjourn?
That's a Tuesday, sorry.
Sorry, Tuesday. That's right. It's a holiday Monday, August the 1st. Yes, so Tuesday, August the 2nd, 2022. Councillor or Deputy Mayor Matheson. A motion to moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Ms. Barwell that we do now adjourn. All in favor? The motion carried. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. It's my pleasure to meet you, Mr. Pauly. Look forward to meeting with you soon. Good night, everybody.
Likewise, thank you.
Thank you.